So yeah, I'm going to be showing you a layered animation workflow where you can create these dynamic layouts to create some visually interesting product messaging or just general graphic design. So just starting over here, we've got our file system. So what I'll do is I'll show you the main composition to start with, and we can just break it down. So to start with, we have our secondary typographic elements. And these are just pre-comp animations with a loop in and a loop out, or an animation in and an animation out. And then we have our actual main strap line with our logo. And then we have our two images, and this is all housed in this main section, or this section 1. And then this begins to animate out, and we've just changed the position here horizontally. So there's just some very subtle horizontal movement that then allows the next animation to be brought in, like so. So yeah, I'm just gonna have a go at creating one of these animations and just running you through how this is made. So we'll start with making a new composition. We're going to make it 1920 by 1920. Click OK. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to our settings, grid, and we're just going to make sure that we have our 96 pixel grid with 4 subdivisions. We can then go into view, show grid, and then make sure that we've got snap to grid enabled. If we just look at our style frames and we show the grid, you can see how our grid system actually works here and how our content is actually fitting into this grid. And we're just going to start with making these columns just so we can place content a little bit easier in After Effects. So I'm just going to get this measuring tool, and I'm just going to see that it's got a width of 144. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a box, just double click this rectangle tool here, and it's filled the composition, and I'm just going to make this 144 by 144, and then I'm going to do Shift Command H, which is going to show up our gizmos, and then we can just plug that in the corner like so. And I'm actually just going to press Y, just pull this anchor point into there, and I'm actually going to now make this the height of 1920, and we'll actually just align this to the top like so. I'm then going to go into here and just add a repeater, and I'm going to set this to 11 copies, I think, and then we'll just set this to 144 for now, which is tiled 11 rectangles. But if we go into here, we can see that our gutter is 24 pixels wide. So all we need to do is just add 24 pixels here. We have this perfectly tiled set of columns, and I'm just going to hit T and set this to an opacity of 10. Let's set this to 25, and then we can just Command C, Command V. We're going to hit R, and we're just going to rotate this by 90 degrees. And then if we just center this, align it to the top, and then just pull it down to grid modules, and we have this. Sorry, let me just close my windows. There's this police sirens that you guys don't want any of that. Okay, so we can see we've got this perfect grid. If you want to see how I get this view, it's this one here. Just press that and it enters all the modules full. If you ever want that, that's how you do it. And we're just going to name this grid, and you can see that we already have a folder for our modular grid, so we can just delete that and use the one we've already made, which is here. Okay, so we're going to make a new composition, and we're going to call this our main comp. So we're going to press enter with it selected and just call it main comp. Okay, so now we need our lockups, or our kind of our pre-comps to then place, compose, and animate in and out. So I've already prepared these here, so you can see we have our lockups here, so you can see how they animate here. It's just very simple. We just got a mask here, which just brings in our typography, and then we have our secondary type here, which is just a very simple character offset and opacity animation in and out. And then the same for this one. An interesting thing you can do though is once you've created something like this, you can then pre-comp it again, and just add a little bit of drift on that, just to make it a bit more of a smoother animation. And you can see this in play later on in the tutorial again. So with our main comp selected, we can just start dropping this content in, I guess. So if we go to 2 seconds and we just want to invert this, and we can see that this one, we have it up in the top and right and top left. So I'm just gonna put this so it looks like it needs to go there. We just align this to the top corner. We can see that this is nice. Let's just drop in our grid as well and put that on the top, and we'll just lock that. So yeah, we can already see that we need to drop this down one like that. Now that locks in very nice. Okay, so we can start dropping in our furniture as well now. So I'm going to drop one in the corner here. We also need to invert this, and it looks pretty low res. Is that okay? Yeah, if we just press this button here, maybe for this strap line as well, doesn't seem to make a difference there. Yeah, it just seems to rasterize the graphic a little bit better. So that's something to consider. So we just pull that in there. That's going to lock into that nice. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 downwards. So if we go here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we just pull this down like so, we can just start placing this in here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this and just pull it along. And again, just selecting this layer, copying and pasting, and just dragging it so it locks into that bit there. And yeah, I'm just going to repeat the process. So we've got that, that's all good. We're actually just going to select these two and just drop in a different pump just so we get some variation in our line there. And then I'm actually just going to offset these by 10 frames, let's say. Actually, let's say 3 frames. So just using the command button and the arrow key to the right, I'm just going to press it 3 times, which is going to move us along in the timeline. And then I'm just going to press the square bracket key with the desired pre-comp selected, and then just repeating that same process, we can very quickly kind of sequence these. So if you press command and upwards arrow key, that's going to select the next composition upwards, and then we can go 3 along, and then press our square arrow key again, and you can see how that works. So yeah, if we just play this back, we can see that there's some delay on that, which is pretty nice. We can actually just grab all of this and add a null object and parent it to the null object like so, and then we just hit P, and then we just go along 30 frames and just move this here, select everything, right click, keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes, and we're just gonna give this some expo in. And then if we play that, we get this really nice subtle movement that just brings in those elements. And then we're just going to go a little bit further along. So at 3 seconds, we're just going to select this and then repeat the same thing here. So just moving it a little bit along, grabbing both of them and just expoing in. We can just kind of tailor this to how we want it. So we should get this kind of interesting aesthetic. So that's cool. We also have our images here. It's super important to drop images into a pre-comp because you never know if the client's going to like the image or ask to change it. And you could spend weeks animating sequences, applying effects, applying various different motion behaviors to them, and then they ask for a different image. And yeah, it just becomes very difficult when it's the actual image itself. So it's better to place it in a container and do all the effects on the container, and then you can always just drop that image in whenever you want. So yeah, we'll just be starting with our first image, and I'm just roughly going to place it about here. Yeah, that's good. And then I'm going to grab a rectangle tool, and then this is where actually entering full screen really helps. You can just select these and just get it to how you like it, really. So yeah, for the tutorial's sake, we're just going to go with this. Just going to check my style. That looks all good. So we can go back out of there, and then we can just select this mask path button here, pull that along, and then if we go back inside, we can just select these and just pull them up to there, and that looks all good. So if we just add some ease to this, we can see how that looks. That's cool. So at 3 seconds here, I'm just going to select this keyframe, go along, and then entering back in here. You don't have to enter back in. I'm just kind of doing it so you can see for the tutorial, but it also just makes it a lot easier as well. So yeah, just like that, going back out, adding some ease onto that, just seeing how this looks. If you've never seen this plugin, it's called Flow. It's really good if you're working across huge animation files and you need to control the type of ease that you're using. Yeah, really good for professional workflow. So you can see how this animation is looking now. And that's kind of the crux of the tutorial. So this is our main sequence. You could do a bunch of compositions. You could do one like this. You know, they all work like this basically. So once we've got kind of main comp, you would actually kind of separate these into sequences in the pre-comp section. So we've got our 2 sequences here, and I'll just show you guys how you can actually just take this to another level really. So we've animated both of our different sequences and we've got some really good effects. So just to take this to another level, we're just going to use some more drift. So I'm just going to go a second along, and I'm just going to pull this to about there, and just make sure that that's all right. And then I can just expo it out. So you get this really smooth entry. You could even pull this out further, so to about there. And then when it starts to animate out, so at about 3 seconds, you can just kind of repeat that same effect. So we'll go to 4 seconds. Where does it leave the canvas? We'll go about there, and we'll just move it along as well. That's grid, we don't really need that right now. So we'll just hide that. We can actually delete that, and we'll also delete, and we'll just turn this off as well because it's very distracting. So yeah, we can just move this along like so as well. And we can just add some ease to that. So you get these really nice animations. And what we can do is we can literally just copy and paste this here onto there, hit U, and then as soon as this leaves our canvas, so about there is probably nice, we can actually just turn this off. And then I'm just gonna extend out the composition. So we'll set this to 10 seconds. You can then bring this next one in and then probably turn it off about there. And then yeah, you should get quite a nice, interesting animation with just a couple elements really. So yeah, these global elements are really versatile and they allow you to create some really interesting layouts and sketches. And yeah, if a client wants to change something, you just need to change a couple things in the actual comp, and then that'll apply to all the different types of animation you've done. So yeah, it's a really effective workflow that I use for animation, and yeah, I wanted to show you guys how I do it. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed the tutorial, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.